Good morning everyone. This is your module leader for ITPS, Information Technology and Professional Skills, module code PC108. The purpose of this video is to go over your assignment, summarizing last 7 weeks and to prepare you for the oncoming assessment on week 10 during your presentation. Now, the coursework assignment brief, as you can see in front of me, okay, and if I scroll down, I ask you to produce a report, and I've mentioned this many times, I would like you to produce a user guide in a formal report structure. What this means is it will be a report, it will be a printable document, and I would like to see all good characteristics of what you expect to see on a user guide. I will come back to that in a moment, and you are required to present your work during week 10. I've already made a online booking form available for you. This is not it, just let's go on to the online booking form. Google Drive. Okay, here we are. So you're expected to fill in your details in here. Okay, the booking form will be here. There we are. Okay, and please enter your student ID. One of you in a group needs to do this with the correct ID and email. And then select your lecture time slot. This is your usual lecture during the week. You either see me on a Monday or a Tuesday, and between those times. Now, if you could have up to 4 partners, so if you're only a group of 2, you just need to fill in your details above here, and then scroll down details down here. If you're up to 4 person, you might want to add partner 2 and partner 3. And please make sure you give me the right ID numbers. Thank you. And as a result of this, I will then, end of this week, will assign you a time slot during your regular lecture time, and you choose to be public or private. In other words, you could present to the entire class or choose just to present to me. Okay, enough of the presentation booking. I hope everyone gets to book a time slot, and I'm looking forward to seeing your presentations. But going back to the assignment, now here, any special requirements, I ask you to present your work professionally. This could be a demonstration. I'm just going to remove this and keep the current, that's it. Okay, this will be a professional presentation. It could be a demonstration, or if you choose to, you could do a PowerPoint presentation. Now, word limit, we have no word limit. It's a technical report and a user guide, and I would like to see certain things in there, which I will come back in a moment. Initially, we set it up on the 11th of April, but please do check on the portal when ITPS assignment becomes available. You mustn't exceed that deadline. So it is in the portal. When you go into student portal, you will find it in Turnitin area, I believe, on your user interface, and you will upload it just like any other assignment. Scrolling down to the actual task here, you have been given a live project, and under the name of PSG, Parent Support Group, and they required a database solution for their business. I am not going to read this because you are already familiar with the database. So I'm just going to move down to the development phase and the assessment criteria. So before we move on to this, make sure, if you're not familiar with this documentation, it's on the Blackboard. I have uploaded it in the assignment section. This is the documentation from the charity, and all our modeling actually came from these documents. I said you can safely ignore the donation tables or donors who will be contributing or donating to the charity, because these forms don't mention them. So as long as you follow these forms, you will achieve your optimum grade. So looking at these forms, we identified counselors as staff, and then parents as an entity for our database, and the attributes as follows, as I'm highlighting. Further down, we actually identified a young person. For a parent to be taken on board, they must have a child or children, and their attributes also identified from the form as age, gender, presenting problems. You might have noticed there are no names for the children because it's not required. The charity counsels the parents, not the children. So further down, the service agreement. Now this service agreement, as it's been mentioned in the classroom, has been taken care of by a separate entity under the name of profile or services, and I will come back to that in a moment. But moving down to counselling assessment form, we have yes/no questions, and this would form another entity in your database. And if you go down, GPs, for example, GP address and name could be a separate entity, a separate table, if you choose to implement your database that way. Scrolling down to the post-assessment. Post-assessment, as I mentioned before, could be part of the assessment, or it can be taken out of the assessment and it could be made to a separate entity. And it's got certain benefits if you actually take it out from the assessment process. So then you could actually define or make it possible, not necessarily the assessing counsellor will be the person who's post-assessing the counselling, initial counselling assessment. Okay, and further down we have other fields such as assessment approved, and this can only be approved by Anne and Roger. I believe Anne and Roger is senior managers in the PSG, and it must have a date. And if the assessment has been taken to supervision, it will be obviously a yes or no and a date. Now, this form is pretty much finished. I'm just going to go on to the assessment forms, and they are here, or session logs. And we're also taking care of this by separating the information from this form into two different entities. The first entity would be the sessions. Therefore, we identify the agreed or desired outcomes for the sessions. Then we would have another entity called session log, or just log if you want to, just log. Then we will actually create our counselling sessions under the log table, and that would have the attributes as session log number as 1, 2, 3 up to 6 initially, and then a date, the attendance, and these are, recognize them, they are attendance codes, and as highlighted above here. Duration, and this would be text would be appropriate because their duration usually is 50-minute sessions, so you might want to write 50 minutes. That's why it's text. And summary, that would be a memo type, so the counsellor could write a long bit of text and assessment in there. Now, enough of the background information. Now we can go on to the marking criteria. Initially, your development phase includes tables and relationships, forms, queries, reports, VBA for added security, legal issues, and data protection. Now, as well as you're working on your development, I've also asked you, you must make sure that you are constantly working on your user manual. Your project planning must be up to date, I said. So just walking backwards from here, project planning. I have given you a very simple one from my previous work with my students, and you could see we have actually recorded all our tasks here in a table, and they had a start date, a duration, and a finish date. What's missing from here is there are no contingencies. I can't track what changes that we are actually making to this planning, and so it can't accommodate that, and it is quite inflexible. So if you look down here, yes, we have an appropriate Gantt chart. It gives me the correct date range down here, and I could actually track down how the project is progressing, but I have no idea what tasks have been completed on time, whether the student had any problems, and if so, what measures have been taken place. Okay, so make sure you have a project plan, and the choice is yours. You can use an Excel Gantt chart. You can make one yourselves, or you can use other professional tools. The choice is entirely up to you. You must demonstrate your project planning for that would be for 10 marks. Now, I would like you to self-assess yourselves, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment, but I've actually prepared, here we are, okay, these are all presentation booking. Let me just close this one and this one. ITPS self-assessment as a group. I will give you access to this area. I'd like you to write in there an ID or a name that I will assign to your group, and then make sure that you assess your work. In fact, this is the self-assessment one. You give yourself, for example, let's go down to the project planning. Here we are. It is between 0 and 11 marks. Therefore, if I gave my planning a 7 mark, I need to write down here why I did give myself 7 marks. So the reasons that we gave 7 marks. 7 marks. We completed all the required tasks and accounted for contingencies, as well as a Gantt chart representation. Okay, make sure you just check your spelling. Okay, Gantt chart, it should be capital like that, and give me a reason why you are assigning yourself 7 marks. If this mark is a 10, you must have, for a 10, it must be exceptionally good. Oops, that's just exceptionally, here we are, good. Right, okay, moving on to the other parts of the assessment. Here, the user manual will be in a formal structure. It will look something like, let's scroll down to the other part, right here, the user guide. Now, I said you must make sure it is a group submission. On the Turnitin, all the student ID numbers must be entered, but make sure your ID numbers is also on the cover page of the assignment. Assignment title is obviously our assignment title from here. That will be information assignment coursework for information technology professional skills, or you could call it, here we go, PSG charity database project. That could be an assignment title. Scrolling down back to there, I need to see full names, student IDs of everyone. Okay, table of contents. You should be able to enter this, but usually table of contents are entered after you finish the work, and it is simply going onto here. That will be on the references, table of contents. If you're not familiar with this area, you must make sure that you can use that. I will not award any marks for people who's not using automated table of contents, because it says here clearly automatic table of contents must be used. An introduction: explain to me briefly what this user guide is about. Are you trying to help the database users to use your database solution more efficiently, and what is the purpose of this database? That type of information must be put in here in the introduction. Furthermore, user instructions, I put it down here, and what goes inside the body of your user guide is various screenshots of your database and how the users actually will effectively use your database, and an index right at the end, which means it will have the page numbers of certain topics, and it should be listed in an alphabetical order. You do not have to give me an appendices. You could include detailed instructions, I said, how to set up the database. However, if you can bypass this area safely. I'll be looking at just up to here under the microscope. Now, going back to the I was on there anyway. Just scroll back up. So I've talked about the project planning, the user manual. So if you're awarding yourself a 15 mark, again you must include everything that actually your assignment asks you to do down here, including appendices, and also for that you must talk about the password protection, what requirements are in place, how do you back up the database, and how to set up the database or a network environment. This information is required. And one other thing, here in the user instructions sections, you must include a topic which is part of another development area, control copy, that must be included in here. Now, the reason I include it there, this is our advice to, actually, I'm just going to set that to heading 1, heading style 1, even though that's not appropriate there, you know that you must make your headings as the right styles, heading 1 or 2. So the reason I've added that bit there, I will be checking what advice, what advice you give the user in keeping their data safe, and what are the legal implications of storing, I'll correct that in a minute, storing data in UK, data on other people, people in UK, storing, that will be storing. Here we are. So you must make sure and revisit, this was covered in week 3, and you might need to give me some advice or give the user some advice on the Information Commissioner. I hope that's quite clear. Now going back to other issues in terms of development. So I covered now project planning, the user manual, and inside the user manual I'm building up as I'm developing my project. I'm now taking care of the legal issues and data protection. Now your presentation, I will come back to that towards the end. So working back to the top now, the development. Now from day one you have been developing a working database solution for PSG charity. I have asked you identify the entities and the attributes for the business from the PDF documents that we got given. And also I asked you to go to their website, have a look and try to identify the way they are working. So our tables and relationships are identified, and previously I've just done a database for this project. I just would like to now start that off. Okay, that's the PSG. Now I did add extra things onto this, but you're not required to develop it to this extent. Okay, so when I enter, it says yeah, your correct ID and login password is correct. Here we are, and as you can see on the screen, all the access features are hidden. This is for extra security, so I can actually, I've just logged in as admin because I registered myself as admin, and if I click here you will see all the users, which their user security levels, and if I actually move on, I'll see, for example, Joe is a user, he will have less privileges. So down here I key, that's me as admin, and if I move down, test user, I will log in as the test user. Let me just come off that screen. Okay, PSG, and this time log in as the test user. So test, and when I enter, you will find it says now navigation form for staff, and those features are hidden, so the staff cannot access the security features this way. Okay, now I wanted to show you the relationships and then move on to the tables, and finally queries, reports, and go back to the forms. So I just need to disable the security features for a moment. I need to close this view, okay, and now open it up again, but this time, okay, here we are. Yes, now you can see our tables and the structures on the left hand side. Now what is it that we needed to do? We just needed to create, okay, a home tab. Actually that is also disabled, so I am going to enable my, okay, from here, just customize ribbon, and I would like the database tools to be visible. Say okay, I need to, there we are. Okay, relationships. You are familiar with this table here. I know it looks a bit confusing, however, if you actually break the work logically down, this is what it comes down to. And previously, when I was talking about the assessment form down here, I said we could have taken out the GP and make a separate table on the side here with a link back into the assessment form. Or in fact, that could have been added onto the client's profile down here. So as you are aware, there are more than one way of solving, tackling this problem, but whichever way works for you, make sure that you present a working solution, even if you can't develop maybe as complex solution as on the screen. I would like to see a working solution which made up of relevant tables. So you must give me some tables, as I'm highlighting it on the side here, such as clients table. Okay, it must have data inside it. Clients obviously have children. We must have some data inside it. My one has only one child, but as I mentioned before, you just need to use whichever way that works for you to add data to your tables. The way that you can actually add data, let's talk about that too. I need to now, just a second, I need to enable more features. That will be in the customized ribbon section. External data, that must be updated also. Okay, external data, I said initially make sure you export the table. Right now it is exporting the child table, and if I exported the table it will go onto my documents. I just want to put that on my desktop for now. It says child, save it, and then say okay. Now it's exported that, and close this one, close the window. Make sure you now add some data on the child. Okay, here we are, and you can see the first one is done for you, but if you wanted to add many more, now I will have, actually I can't do that. I hope you notice what I've done, like mistakenly. I have generated some random parent IDs. I cannot do that. The reason is I don't know what parent IDs that I have in my database. So for that I must check the parents table. In my case they are clients, and I've got 1 to 15. Actually, yes, they are valid parent IDs. So I've checked that I have valid parent IDs. So as you can see, I can't assign 16, but I can assign up to 15. And then date of birth, I could just copy that down, and I don't want it to increment, that's okay. And then M, F, okay, capital F, F again, and M again. And then if I autofill that, you could see that, okay, that's presenting problems. I advise you go on to, okay, some lorem sites, whoops, okay, here we are, and generate some random text from the internet. Here we are, control copy, and just this is to test our database actually works. So okay, and then make sure, okay, other agency involvement, I think that was text, but I must make sure the data types are, let me check. So first of all, autofill all that. Here, presenting problems, that's memo, and text, description of the problem. Presenting problem, I think I set this true or false. Let me just go back to the database again. Child, no, that's all free, they're all text, therefore, okay, go to design view. Presenting problem is text, the other one is memo. As you know, text will be shorter than a memo, so I'm going to make sure that I don't have as much on here, where we have the presenting problem. There you are. And the description can be longer. Other agency involvement, that is text, and the description will be a memo. Okay, so I'm going to copy this one, control copy, control V, make sure that's autofills and the rest is correct. Now save your work, and then go back into this area, close all the windows, no, and bring in the external data. This time I'm on the import area, and I will go on to here, and it was on my desktop, and it was called child, okay, XLS. Open, and it will actually be appending on an existing table, that is the child table here, and hopefully everything will go well here. One record is going to be affected. Let's have a look at it. Okay, child. So now I have, as you can see, I gave numbers initially in my Excel table, but then they have been looked up from the parents or the clients table and turned into a name, a matching name. And you can see my import was successful. Now I'm going to close this one. Okay, so far what we've done, we have actually made sure tables and relationships are correct, and tables contained some data. Now moving on to the next part are my forms. Looking back at my project, I advise you to create forms by, actually that is now not there, so let me just go back and add it on. Here we are, so the create will be now added onto it. Okay, there we are, create. Now from this ribbon I ask you to create forms using the form wizard. I don't want to repeat this again, it's a very simple process. Okay, I'm just going to cancel this one, and I show you the forms that I've created early on myself, starting with the client. Now the client form had, okay, initially it was a very plain one, but I've added a logo, and I advise you to change the title here, clients, but if you're doing something on that form, it should describe exactly what the form is doing. And then further I customized the fields by going on to the design option here, and then by arranging it. Make sure you know how to work stack and tabular, and if I actually said stack here, it will do that. I don't want to change my design, but you can see if I said tabular, it would have actually put it on a horizontal way. So I'm going to undo that. Okay, and if you want to change the colors, you can actually go on to formatting, and from here select an appropriate color so your design isn't out of place. But more importantly, what you've got there is the buttons at the bottom. of the form. Now these can be placed anywhere, but they must be useful in some way. If you notice down here, okay, this group is navigation. It actually navigates one for, it shows you the next record or the previous one. This will show you the last record here, this one. Okay, this will show you the first record. You don't have to write the code for these ones. As long as you go on to the design and click on this menu here, it will actually say to you what you want to do. And please do take a bit of time. Record navigation, that row is entirely the items that came from record navigation. And record operation is actually quite useful. Last two came from there. This one with a disk the symbol on it is save, obviously, and this one with a little yellow icon on it, a star, is add new record. But you could actually, you can see assessment form, post form here that I used, instead of an image, I used text to make it more appropriate for the user. Okay, I'm not going to add a new one, and then I'll delete that one. Make sure you have useful buttons on your forms. How many forms must you design? As many as you need. Okay, I have quite a few. The reason I have quite a few, I would like to show you the navigation form. Now you can see why, because I have a navigation form, but I am displaying each section, each form on this navigation menu. Okay, and you can see, okay, and each navigation has, or each form has, the menu. I previously mentioned in the class, once you design the appropriate buttons, they can be copied and pasted onto the new form. So I would like to see appropriate forms with effective user interface. That's what's required from you. Let's go back to your form here. That's 10 marks. For you to achieve 10 marks, I would like to see a full navigational menu with appropriate forms. So the number is up to you. I'm not going to name a number, but I will test your form when you present your work. Now the next part, queries and reports. They're actually tied to one another, and I would expect you to be able to design. Here we go. Let's go back and close all this stuff. Okay, close all. I don't want to make any changes to my design. And queries and reports. Now I've done this in the classroom. One example that I gave is I said, for example, a counselor might need to get familiar with the parents' records. In other words, they might want to read their assessment and the post-assessment before actually starting the counselling session. And this is quite a normal request. So for that, we needed to create a query. So the counsellor is not looking for throughout all the records, but actually finding the parent, a specific parent that they are counselling. And how was that? It was created actually, if you just right click here and the design view, it was created like this from the create menu option. Okay, from the create menu option now you create a query, but I said you select, okay, the tables and the fields that you require. Don't worry if you forget to select a field, because later on from this view, let's assume that I wanted to show another field here. I could just say double click and it will appear here, and I can actually now look for that in my query. So I'm going to close that one because I don't want it in there. Okay, and I said if you are actually looking for a specific name of a page of a parent, you start with a square bracket, that is, and write a note. Enter, oops, because I'm on cap locks. Enter, okay, parent's name. Okay, or sometimes you'll see client's ID. So if I run this query, it will pop up with a message with that message, and it will say to me, which parent name are you looking for? But this can be a repeating field. It's not really that reliable to use. More appropriate will be a client ID or a parent ID, or you could say parent name and surname for a relatively smaller database. Okay, so I'm going to move on from here and show you my solution. Okay, now let me close this one, close this. Now go back to my navigation form, and that will be my admin navigation form. Here I have, let's say I want to create a new profile, or maybe not, because the idea I was here, like let's go here, I wanted to actually read Tom, Bruce, let's have a look. Okay, I want to read Tom's post assessment. Remember what I said in the client's query here? Like, you should be designing such a query so it will only bring Tom's assessment. And I can see Tom has some assessments, but this client query isn't actually searching for anything, it's just displaying everything without a criteria. I'll close this one, but the one that I've designed here, the report will open up. It says please enter parent name, and I believe that was Tom, so I'm going to write Tom. Oops, it's not case sensitive, so it should be okay. Right, here we are, and this is the report. What I've got, again, a company logo. Okay, the way that the report will look appropriate. It's not the best design in terms of printing, but depends on what you want the reports for. You could actually change it around in the design view. So if you were here, I mentioned this to you before, this is the report header area, and I moved the PSG logo, post assessment report, that is a label by the way, and these came from in the details section from down here. Okay, I copied it to the header to bring the name and the surname of the client to the header. And page headers, these are again labels. Remember, labels do not change, they're just normal text, as opposed to the detailed area. The same field is linked to now into the database tables, so it will be filtering itself from the database. If I wanted to make changes to this database, I will select those two. Let's assume that this will look better. I'm just making a small design change to it, and I want to see what it does. Okay, and maybe I will have a better design if I move them around. And I just want to now go back and look at it. Okay, oops, right down here, save, and then have a look at it in the report view, and enter name again. I'm looking for Tom, and I think it's slightly better. But again, this is a perception, it's a design issue that you need to decide in your groups, talking to one another, which one would be appropriate for PSG. So I have now covered, going back to the query, because it says queries, you must produce two. I just gave you an example of one query, but you must use your imagination and write another meaningful query for 10 marks, an effective one. Reports, your report design must be appropriate, suitable for the company, and it must convey the information accurately. I will not give many marks for the reports where you can't read the text. What I mean by that is, let's have a look at it again, design view. If I did it like this, for example, let's say it was like this, and what that will do, and there's not enough space now for the text to show itself, let's say Tom. Now the assessed, I can't read that now, but it is actually the assessor or assessed by, so make sure your reports are readable, they are for reading. Okay, so go back to that, save it, and report view, and Tom again, slightly better, but it can be improved much further. And what you can say from this, the person Tom Brennan had 3 post assessments, and it's been done by John, Sarah, and Sarah by twice at different dates. Okay, so going back to your assessment, I have now explained the queries, the reports, how the reports link back to the queries when you go on to create report option from my here you will have that option, create report. You will choose create report from the query that you've designed, and it's always a good idea to give the queries a name before saving it. Like client query 1, 2, 3, like I've done here, is not very meaningful and it is confusing. Okay, so going back to, oops, there we are. So VBA for edit security, 10 marks. This actually quite a difficult task to do. So I would like you, first of all, make sure, okay, you have the navigation menu, okay, you have the buttons that actually opens up. Okay, I need to be on the design view here. Design view. Here we are. Nope. Navigation menu, design view. Design view. Okay, and I need to be on the client. Okay, there we are. Now, if you look at that button, it's automatically generated, but I could further customize the code. So if I went to the build here, okay, now just a second. Properties. Okay, build event. Right, now you can see it's actually using a macro. And what is the macro doing? If I click on that, it says report name. It says go and open the report client report in a normal window. I could add another thing to it, but right now it's not appropriate. Just like for the marks for the VBA security, you need to show me this view, okay? And for added extra marks, okay, added extra marks, you are going to have to show me. Let me just close this one. Okay, something like, okay, if I can go on to my, okay, why is this disabled? I'm going to have to close this and then open it again. Okay, here we are. PSG, Shift key. Right, you're going to have to show me, okay, a small Visual Basic code. So don't worry about what's on the screen. What I like you to do is this. Okay, for example, in one of your forms you will say I have a login form. You don't need to provide me with a login form, but you will have a navigation form. Okay, in the navigation form, please write this code in. Okay, what it does, it will disable the ribbon at the top, so people cannot or other users cannot change your design. So all the menu options, like you can see here, database, external tools, home, create, it disables that ribbon. So by following this, you're going to write private sub, okay, form load. This means on form load, do command dot show toolbar ribbon and disable the toolbar. Please write it exactly as it is. Now, furthermore, you might want to protect your code. That's also possible. It's got to be done here, okay, and no, what are the properties now? Database 10 properties here, and I could write a password here as well. I'm not going to add one on, but this is to protect the code. I'm just going to come off that view. So in your assignment, I would like to see in your presentation for the maximum marks, there we are, added security for VBA, one macro view, which you are generating them automatically, but for added security you will be adding this feature in. Okay, private sub, form load, and disable the ribbon. Okay, close that one. Now finally, okay, we are on the, I've already mentioned the legal issues actually, so pretty much we have finished the development, and before you actually save the database, like you go on here and then you say info, you could encrypt it with a password. This is required, but before you do that, I like you also from the database tools, okay, you could split your database. Okay, so if I actually click on that split the database, this will remove the tables, detach it from the database, and store it in a separate location where you will only have your forms as the front interface with the user. Okay, you will split your database, and then you will password protect it with encryption. This password is different than the one I just shown you. This one will actually lock the database for the user, so you will be giving the password to the PSG. The other password is for the developer, that was for you, for your VBA code. This one will lock the database interface. Now, and finally, you just save your work. Save and publish, okay? And in the Access database format is fine. There are other versions that are available. I'm not going to go into them, but save database, and it will be in the location that you actually saved it. And this is not a web option, therefore publish to Access services is not required. So your project will finish like that. One more time, I'm going to exit this view and then show you how the database should look like. PSG, okay. Now, login screen, I don't expect you to do it. If you can do it, it would be interesting, certainly, okay, but I don't expect you to do that. Now enter it. In this screen right now, my ribbon is totally disabled because I am using the form in my form load. I'm using the command for disabling the ribbon, and I have access now. I've logged in as staff to all the relevant areas, and you can see some of the areas that I didn't really design them that well, but I would expect you to have a finished product by week 10 during your presentation. So I hope everything is clear. I'm just going to close that. I need to exit that, and here we are, going back to here. So we covered now the development. You need to give me tables and relationships, forms, queries, reports, and VBA for edit security. And legal issues will be in the user manual. Project planning must be an ongoing one. You could demonstrate this to me during your presentation. You don't have to include that in the user manual. I don't think it will be appropriate. Project planning, well, you can if you want to. You can have a copy in the user manual. It won't hurt anyone. It will be absolutely fine in the appendices maybe. And project presentation, this is the last part. I would like you make sure you're on time to your given time slot, and be present. You must have had some practice before presenting your work. I will not be giving any help during the presentation or before. You must make sure that your work actually is ready to present, whichever format that you are actually following, and you could bring it on a memory stick and run it on the lecturer's station, or you could actually bring your own laptop and project it to the screen and present it. If you choose the second option, if you're projecting your work to the screen, I would like you to make sure that you either have an HDMI cable to connect your laptop to the screen, or VGA cable, depending on what the configurations on your device. And I think that's it. Good luck. One last thing. Just now I've prepared them, so I like you to go onto here, okay, where it says self-assessment. Okay, self-assessment. You're gonna have to fill all the sections in. Okay. And I'm asking you specific questions on the specific sections of your assignment. Please do fill this in as a group so you understand your weaknesses, if there is any, and give yourselves some marks here. And then give me a final total, which I will print these out. I'll make it available before your presentation. I like to see what you actually considered and how much effort you put into your self-assessment. And also I would like to know whether you've changed anything, or even in your time management maybe, depending on what you scored in your self-assessment, whether you made any changes to your schedule and the workload, and how much more effort that you have put in, as well as peer assessment. That was the second form. Don't worry about the top, that's just misspelled. I'm just going to change that in a moment. But the peer assessment is you are required to, okay, get somebody else to have a look at your work and see if they agree with your grading. So they will then give you marks in these sections. Again, the same marking scheme, but they don't need to provide you with written feedback. They will talk about your work in like a verbal feedback you will get. And finally, you will present your work, but I would like these 2 assessments done before your presentation. Thank you very much.